What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rovardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And the Giants are preparing for their final preseason game this Saturday against the New York Jets. Preseason finale, it's going to be a lot of fun. In preparation for those games, joint practices with the New York Jets over in Florham Park. It's been a little bit of an interesting time here reacting to some of these takeaways from this Giants-Jets first practice. Seemingly, the Giants' offense struggled, the Giants' secondary struggled, the Jets' defense looked great, the Jets' offense looked great. Just overall, it was a win for the Jets today. So, not a lot of happiness to report there, but we do want to unpack and kind of discuss some of the good things, some of the bad things that we're hearing out of this joint practice between the Giants and the Jets. One great takeaway, Malik Neighbors receiving a ton of praise from Sauce Gardner. He's looking great. One bad takeaway, Daniel Jones receiving no good praise from Sauce Gardner, a clip that's going viral right now across social media. So it's, again, some give, some take, some good, some bad. We're just going to go ahead and unpack all of the top storylines. Tyrone Tracy Jr. returning to practice, all of them in today's episode. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? Happy freaking birthday. And what are your takeaways from Giants versus Jets day one of joint practices?
Thank you, my friend. And listen, it kind of depends who you ask today. Some people will say the Giants had a good day. Some people will say the Jets destroyed them. I think there's a little bit of both when you look at kind of the overarching talking points for today's episode. Daniel Jones, we'll discuss his day. But most importantly, the secondary was abused. And it wasn't even like abused. It was more like embarrassed. They were cooked all day long. When you think about this secondary, when we saw them against the Texans, they were shredded to pieces. They still don't have Cordell Flott. He's lost this CB2 job. It's over for him. He's going to be a backup again this year. The injury completely set him back. Nick McLeod was just demoralized all day by Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson. And someone in the comments of one of my tweets goes, he's a top 5 receiver this year. I'm like, brother, do you know who's in our freaking division? A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and CeeDee Lamb. We are going to be facing off again, and not to mention Terry McLaurin, we're going to be facing off against great receivers all year long. Week 1 is Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Like, we're going to get destroyed if we don't go out and get some secondary help now. I think they're going to wait until next week for waiver wire cuts. I think we discussed this yesterday a little bit. It's the natural progression of how these things go. And for what it's worth, the Jets have one of the deepest secondaries in the game. So this is a really good opportunity for the Giants to kind of scout them and get some in-depth information on who might be available next week in the waiver wire. And they have the 6th pick. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets might be a team they go out and get a cornerback from. But end of the day, Anthony, I don't necessarily think that this team is going to go out and get a CB2 off the waiver wire. I don't think that's how it goes. Then maybe they'll get someone to compete with Nick McLeod, someone that can offer some upside and decent projectables, but you're going out and getting a waiver wire pickup to fill your CB2 position. You're signing up for a bad season in the secondary, right? You need free agency help. You need a trade. I don't know what that looks like. And listen, I thought about this last night after we recorded that episode talking about J.C. Horn, Greg Newsome, some guys that, maybe on the ways out. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought to myself, I don't think the Giants want anything to do with giving away draft capital for next year, because I think they want to have it just in case they have to use it for a draft for a quarterback. I don't know if, a 5th or 4th round pick will make a big difference, but it could. And they might want to have all of their assets available and ready to use for a quarterback if they have to give up a bunch of stuff. Now, when you're talking about trading up for a quarterback, you're usually thinking about 1s and 2s. But if the difference is a mid-round pick, you might want to keep those selections to have at your disposal. So it is an argument to make. I don't think it's a really life or death one. I think you could probably spend a 5th or 4th rounder for maybe a guy that's coming back from injury or somebody who has some upside that has maybe a year or 2 left on the rookie deal. Maybe that is something the Giants will end up doing. But I think I'd rather just spend money. I think I'd rather just go get a guy like a Kello Witherspoon from the Rams, or even bring back a Dory Jackson. I'd rather just go and spend some money on an experienced player because, look, waiver wire is good, but it's not going to solve the CB2 position. Trades are good, but you're getting a guy that another team does not want. So you have to it does come with risks, whether it's injury concerns or inconsistency concerns. So right now, I think I'd just rather throw money than draft capital. That's kind of how the conclusion I came to after thinking about it, just thinking about why we might need that draft capital at the end of the day. But what are your thoughts? Nick McLeod got cooked today. Garrett Wilson put him in the blender. Deontay Banks got beat on a couple routes. I'm not concerned about Banks. He's our guy. This experience is good for him, but I certainly am concerned about Nick McLeod. I certainly am concerned about Cordell Flott, who's not even practicing. I imagine you're feeling probably the same way.
Yeah, I'm obviously concerned about the cornerback 2 position, like I have been all off season. Though this is not, nothing's changed for me. It's kind of been this topic of conversation. Am I concerned last week or 2 weeks ago when the Giants had some struggles against the Detroit Lions? Not any more concerned than I was 2 weeks prior. Am I more concerned now than I was 2 weeks ago? Not any. There's just been no raising level of concern because there's always just been the same blanket concern. I think the Giants don't have a bona fide CB2. They have a bunch of guys who will compete for that job, and we'll see if one of them rises to the occasion and surprises us. We don't have a set starter at that position, so there's nothing surprising here for me. There's nothing overly concerning here for me. It doesn't change anything. Like, nothing has changed is the unfortunate reality here. The only way it does change is if the Giants make a big move. The Giants aren't going to make a big move, in my opinion. I don't think that they think this is a team that's going to win 10 games this year. Therefore, I don't think they're going to go out there and spend a ton of money that they don't need to spend. I think they'd rather roll that salary cap space over into 2025. But there's also the option of using the waiver wire, as you suggested, Alex. But you are right. You're not going to find bona fide starters on the waiver wire. If they were bona fide starters, where would they be? On an NFL roster, not on the waiver wire. So Giants fans need to temper their expectations with this secondary. We like a lot of the pieces. They're young. Jason Pinnock's a good player. Tyler Nubin has good potential. Dane Belton has potential. Deontay Banks has great potential. Those players all good. All of them young, have never started more than one full season in the NFL. So you just have to temper your expectations here if you're a Giants fan on the secondary. One major positive for the secondary, Alex, has nothing to do with the secondary. In fact, this was discussed in my interview with Justin Tuck. One major positive for the secondary is the defensive line. The defensive line is going to force the ball out of the hands of the quarterback quicker, which then means that the defensive backs don't have to cover for as long, don't have to be on an island for as long, and it just ultimately helps them out a whole bunch. So the defensive line is going to help the secondary this year, and I think that the Giants know that. They had an option. They could have gone ahead and signed the cornerback in free agency or traded for one or drafted one early in the draft. They didn't do any of that. Instead, they opted to invest those resources into Brian Burns. They knew that Brian Burns would not only help them in the pass rushing department, but also help them cover in the secondary. So I think that's just the reality of the team right now. I think that's the reality of this Giants defense. I don't think they're going out there and signing a Witherspoon in free agency, not an Adoree Jackson. I think they're rolling with what they got. And if they do end up picking up somebody through a splash, I don't think it's going to be a free agent. I think it's going to be a trade. But then again, I don't think the Giants are willing to sacrifice their future for a season that they probably don't have a ton of confidence in anyway. Considering they tried to trade away future assets. I mean, guys, this is a team that was willing to put the 2025 first-round pick on the table to trade up to the number 3 overall pick with the New England Patriots. You just got to temper your expectations with this team. It's the unfortunate reality. They probably don't view this as a winning season, so I can't expect them to go out there and make any crazy moves between now and the start of the regular season to upgrade this secondary. Instead, I think we have to hope that the secondary exceeds expectations, these players develop, and that happens because of the Giants having an elite pass rush. Because the potential for that pass rush to be elite is absolutely there. Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, Dexter Lawrence, Azeez Ojulari, and maybe even Elijah Chapman in that rotation. That is a great group of pass rushers potentially, and if they can play at the level that they're expected, the secondary will benefit more than anyone. They won't have to cover for as long. They will be able to play well as a whole unit on the defensive side of the ball. So that's my entire take on the CB2 situation. It's kind of just a bunch of points that have been repeated throughout the offseason that I'm combining here into one long tangent. I'm not more concerned than I was 2 weeks ago. I'm not less concerned. I've always had this concern. So we'll see if any of these guys develop and if they do get better. But Alex, I do want to flip over to the offensive side of the ball. Malik Neighbors, he still looks great. And I think that's a positive takeaway. And since we just kind of discussed a negative here with the Giants secondary and our concerns over it, I think it's good to just go back to the well here, talk about Neighbors, talk about how we like the potential of this offense. Obviously, it's all predicated on the fact that the quarterback plays well and stays healthy. Brian Daboll has to call good plays. I know it's a team sport. There's so many variables at play, but there are a lot of different aspects of this offense that I'm excited about. How are you feeling about some of the offensive pieces in today's practice?
Well, I guess, how do I break the practice down offensively? It was very risk averse, was what the practice was. The Giants basically did a lot of crossing stuff, dinks and dunks, check downs. It was a lot of short routes and concepts. Now, Daniel Jones was like 9 for 9, and they were all crossing concepts and dunks, and he had a touchdown run. Like, there was a couple of good moments, but the Giants were not throwing to the Jets secondary. They were not even testing them. They had maybe 1 or 2, 3 max chances downfield, and I think one of them went through Neighbors' hands. It was a couple of just bad throws. One was at the feet of Neighbors when he had beat DJ Reed. Look, like, this is kind of what I expected. I think that after last week's game, the Giants want to rebuild Daniel Jones' confidence. I think it probably took a hit, if we're being honest. Just get him back into the flow of things, couple of completions, rebuild it a little bit, take it easy, take what's given to them, don't test that secondary. But that's not going to help DJ. You know what I mean? That's not going to help him in a game. You got to be able to beat the best secondaries in football if you want to win football games. You got to be able to make those throws. Test them, and they're being risk averse in a joint practice. Like, that's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. And you heard Sauce Gardner talk after the game, Anthony. The like you said, the clip's going viral right now. They asked him, "What do you think of Daniel Jones?" And he goes, "He's a good quarterback." And then he just pauses for like 20 straight seconds of silence, and it's like, we get the message. Like, he's basically saying Daniel Jones is not very good. He broke down a play where he was like, I could have had a pick today. There was a check down to Wan'Dale Robinson. I knew it was coming. I just got there a step late. Like, you're talking about guys knowing what's going to happen. This is not unusual. So I forget what his name from Witherspoon of the Seattle Seahawks said. He stares down his receivers. We saw it last week when Stingley stared him down. Like, jump the route in the first throw of the game. These guys know where Daniel Jones is going because he lasers down his receivers. This has been an issue since day one. Sauce basically called it out. But this is the world we live in. This is kind of how it's been. I do think that for the most part, good that they're trying to rebuild his confidence, but need to take those risks, need to be able to beat good secondaries, and they just really didn't test them at all. But they got a lot of young guys involved. Theo Johnson had a nice catch, which was a nice throw from Daniel Jones, I heard, in a tight window, so that was good. Obviously a positive there. But he had a rushing touchdown, so nice to see him getting mobile with his legs. The offensive line, didn't really hear much about it, Anthony. What, you don't hear much about the offensive line, that generally is a good thing. Usually in the past you've heard offensive line got destroyed. That's been a big talking point in a lot of our previous joint practices. I didn't really hear much about it today, so I'll take that as a win. But the secondary we heard a lot about, obviously being major negative. What was your takeaway from Sauce's kind of very vague but very telling comments about Daniel Jones?
I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've lost my energy over this, and I don't even want to dive into it. Like, it's so tough to just day after day have to react to negativity surrounding Daniel Jones. So I'm just going to kind of do the opposite and just say I think there was plenty to praise about Daniel Jones in today's practice. He hit a couple nice passes to Slayton, to Neighbors. Neighbors had a couple drops, got to clean those up. Listen, it's only practice. It's not always going to be perfect. He had the nice game with his legs, like you mentioned, so maybe I'm grasping at straws here, but overall it doesn't sound like Daniel Jones had a bad day of practice. Just sounds like maybe Sauce Gardner didn't think he had an excellent day. So again, I'm kind of exhausted with these Daniel Jones points right now, and I just don't feel like wasting the energy to be negative about the way that he performed again today. I'm just hoping to see him bounce back from what was a poor outing in that second preseason game and bounce back and play well in this third and final preseason game if he does suit up, which I think you guys know I absolutely feel like Daniel Jones should suit up in this upcoming preseason game. But to your point about the offensive line, there was one player, Alex, I'm excited to talk about this.
Evan Neal, I saw that.
I saw the video.
I saw that. I saw it too.
Evan Neal looked good today. That one rep that he had, oh my God, man. Dude,
single rep.
Maybe Carmen Bricillo, sorry.
Bricillo.
Sorry, Carmen Bricillo.
Italian, I guess. Bricillo.
Maybe Carmen Bricillo has done it. Maybe he has turned things around for our boy Evan Neal. I really hope and pray that that's the case.
One rep. He's an all pro.
He's an all pro. Sign him up. And now we're back.
It really is like night and day. I mean, he's done it for a lot of players. We're seeing a lot of growth across the board. have to expect it with Evan Neal, but need to see him play as a team. You know what I mean? Like, that's the individual rep. Look, if you're going to try to bull rush Evan Neal, you're going to get cooked. It's really the speeder on the edge that gets him. You know, the guys that have the bend, the guys that have the speed, the guys that can get around that edge, those are the ones that are beating the crap out of him. Nobody was trying to bull rush Evan Neal last year. Everyone was just using their speed and agility to get around him. He couldn't react fast enough. Whoever that was tried to go right through him. Yeah, you're not going to move the 320-pound offensive lineman. Just run around him, man. Just run around him or dart inside. Like, that's the easy way past him. Whoever that was took the difficult way and trying to move him off his anchor. So, I'll cough that one up to being a really stupid rep from whoever that pass rusher was. But most smart pass rushers are just going to use their speed and bend around the edge. Like, that's how they beat him every time. So, needs to get better in the reactions. Needs to get better with the athleticism. In my opinion, it's the reaction timing that was a problem for him in the past. He was so slow to react to things happening. That's where he has to improve. That comes with film work a lot of times, knowing the opposing pass rusher across from you, knowing how they set up in specific situations, knowing what moves they like, and anticipating them. That's really what you're doing as an offensive lineman. You're anticipating opposing pass rushers' moves. I feel like he never knew what was coming, and that's really what hurt him a lot of the times, in my opinion.
Yeah, you're not wrong, but hey, man, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I feel like being positive today. I feel like being nice to Evan Neal. Maybe the pass rusher tried to bull rush him because he was trying to get around him and use the speed off the edge all day long, and Evan Neal just kept shutting him down. That's what I'm hoping was the case. I don't know. It probably wasn't the case, but who knows? Maybe it was. Just going to play devil's advocate. Be supportive of our boys today. I feel like being a good Giants fan and bringing some positive energy on the podcast today. But, I mean, yeah, like you said, overall, the offense left some to be desired, had some decent moments. It's just kind of what you expect in a practice as they get ready for the final preseason game. I read that they were more conservative in their approach today, didn't take a lot of deep shots, really just took what the defense gave them. I think that makes sense against a really good New York Jets defense. That's kind of the way that you need to play it when you're the Giants offense, going up against that defense. Alex, I do, though, want to get your take here on Tyrone Tracy Jr., bouncing back from that ankle injury with a rapid pace. He's healthy. He's fully cleared, ready to go. I think that's really exciting, and I'm hoping that we see some more of him this weekend in this final preseason game. And if not, I'm hoping that we see a heavy dosage of Tyrone Tracy throughout the regular season.
I don't know how the hell Tyrone Tracy is back and playing and actually potentially gearing up for this upcoming game. Very, very surprising. But yeah, Paul pierced us. Went out with an injury and returned a couple hours later after going to the freaking hospital for special surgery. Didn't see that one coming, but happy that it's minor. This is a Giants team that has mostly, knock on wood, escaped these very scary stuff, I'm going to call it. I'm not going to put that word out there. But hopefully they can continue to stay healthy. And, even Micah McFadden is hopefully returning by week 1 against the Vikings. And, these guys are some injured, but working their ways back. John Runyan didn't practice today. Neither did guys like Lawrence Cager and Jacob Kubas, I believe. So Runyan needs to get him healthy. I know he had that shoulder, upper body issue, but, he's rehabbing. So I think he'll be ready by week 1. They don't need him to play. He's played over 1,000 snaps in 3 consecutive years. Let him stay healthy. Let him do his thing. He'll be fine. So not really concerned about that, but Tyrone Tracy, I'm really excited about. 4.60 yards after contact. In that first preseason game he did play against the Lions, looked really sharp. I think 26 yards on 5 attempts, averaged 5.3 yards per carry. He looked good. He looked really, really encouraging, and low tread on his tires. 714 total snaps. Might have been 714 yards. I think he had 140 attempts in his career in college at running back, so it's not much at all. Older rookie at 24 years old, but transition receiver, can do a lot for this offense. I'm excited to see how he develops as a rookie alongside Eric Gray and Devin Singletary, but this running back by committee is going to be fun. I'm kind of excited for it, to be honest. I know losing Saquon Barkley stinks and you lose that big playmaker, but all these guys have different qualities. Singletary's just kind of power rusher, but Eric Gray's got a little shiftiness to him. And Tyrone Tracy's just a monster after contact, elite contact balance, some good receiving qualities, good pass blocker when they're asking him to do stuff like that. So lots of different talents there. Interesting to see how the Giants piece it together and find a competent kind of strategy to deploy them.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, of course, to see how the Giants deploy their pass rushers, their weapons on offense, everything. I think that it's going to be really interesting because there are so many newcomers on this Giants roster and in this lineup, right? Like the coaching staff is going to have its hands full. It's going to have a lot to work with, a lot of new moving pieces, and I think that it's been interesting to see how this lineup has taken shape over the last several weeks since training camp began, and I'm hoping that the coaching staff gets it right and puts all these guys in the right position to succeed. Like I said in that interview with Justin Tuck, we talked about a few things. The defensive line was obviously the crux of what we talked about. I wanted to get his take on what he knows best, and talking about that pass rush, he was pretty much in agreement with a lot of the stuff that we've been saying all offseason long, Alex. Justin Tuck was basically harping on the fact that bringing in a guy like Brian Burns takes the pressure off of everybody else. He kept saying this one great quote about heavy is the crown, essentially saying once you get that one guy in there to soak up all those double teams, you're getting a ton of one-on-one opportunities for guys like Dexter Lawrence, for Kayvon Thibodeau, and vice versa. It'll even work its way back to Brian Burns as those other guys play well. So all those one-on-one opportunities, it's important. He also mentioned how those guys can get flexible. Maybe you see Kayvon and Brian Burns on the same side of the defensive line sometimes. That's something that he used to do with Osi Umenyiora, Justin Tuck did. So he's excited about it. And if Justin Tuck, of all people, is excited about the Giants' defensive line, why shouldn't we be? So, I'm thrilled about it, and I think that it's going to be a lot of fun seeing those guys take the field all season long. And Elijah Chapman has continued to look good. Hopefully he becomes a piece of this defense and makes this roster. I think that he definitely earned his spot, but he's got another preseason game to really prove that maybe he should be in the starting lineup come week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings. So it's going to be fun. Again, one last preseason game. We'll be previewing it at detail tomorrow evening on a live stream right here on the channel, so I'm excited for that. And if you guys didn't see the Justin Tuck interview yet, make sure you go check it out. Of course, there's written transcriptions on EmpireSportsMedia.com, and you can watch the full interview right here on the channel. But, Alex, any final takeaways, thoughts from the first day of joint practices with the Jets, or maybe just about the upcoming preseason game, the finale between the Giants and the Jets?
I mean, listen, the Giants, I think tomorrow they should be more aggressive. I think they wanted to set the tone, just get some success, build some momentum. I think tomorrow they're going to start attacking. And I think that the Jets kind of attacked us today. It might have been the opposite, to be honest. Our secondary really struggled. If I'm Jerome Henderson, I'm like, listen, guys, we got to play better than that. You got to demand better results. But at the same time, I don't know if these guys are, aside from Banks, I don't know if these guys are talented enough to provide better results. I like Andrew Phillips, but he's a rookie. We're expecting a lot from him. Nick McLeod, he's a UDFA from 3 years ago. I don't expect much from him. If he can be I'm happy if he's a competent backup. I don't view him as a CB2 right now. Trey Herndon's a career backup. He's given up 2 touchdowns or more in 5 consecutive years. So I feel as though at the moment, this secondary needs the help badly. And the longer the Giants wait, the harder it is to integrate a new piece into this equation. But again, they want to wait because they want to see who shakes free. Even veterans, solid veterans, end up getting cut because of many different reasons. So who knows what will happen. The Giants are waiting for that chance to be the first to strike. So we'll see how that materializes over the next week or so. But at the moment, I want to see the secondary rebound from a bad day. I want to see the Giants be a lot more aggressive tomorrow in the passing game, attack. And, I want to see our pass rush continue to win these reps and perform well. Obviously, the offensive line stand their ground and give Daniel Jones a good pocket in practice against a really solid Jets pass rush. They don't have Hassan Reddick, but they do have Quentin, Williams, and obviously some really, really solid options. And Will McDonald off the edge as well. So, we'll see how things materialize tomorrow. But I expect the Giants to come out with a lot more energy. I think they wanted to just settle into things, no fights, and then attack tomorrow. So we'll see how they go. But maybe the Giants feel as though this week of practice is enough for their starters. I'm not expecting the starters to play because I think they're going to get a lot of their starters action these joint practices, simulate things. If they come out healthy, probably won't risk it on Saturday evening with the primary starters. But there's still a lot of roster battles unfolding here. They have to figure out what's going to happen at the bottom of their roster. There's a lot of guys on the fringe, so I think they're going to use that whole game to figure things out. And of course, injuries will happen, and that'll end up shaking some guys loose anyway.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Again, like this final roster that we're seeing from the Giants right now is anything but final. The roster takes shape and changes all throughout the final weeks of the summer and preseason, and all throughout the regular season as well. Like we might talk about some guys, Alex, that we think should make the final roster and don't end up on the practice squad, end up back on the 53-man roster during the regular season. So the final roster is never final. It's very fluid. Joe Shane is going to be working from now until the end of the season. He's always going to be making changes to the roster. And again, they freed up that cap space with Andrew Thomas. Maybe they make some changes. Maybe they make a big splash move. I doubt it, but you got to hold out hope if you want this Giants team to be competitive this year. It just depends on what your outlook for the season is, truthfully. And some Giants fans think this is a 5-win team, don't want them to make a splash. Others think, hey, they're 1 to 2 pieces away from being competitive in the NFC. Ultimately, it's going to be up to Joe Shane to decide where he lands on that side of which, or on which side of the argument, and then the Giants might make some moves. So again, it's going to be very interesting. We've got one last preseason game, and then it's roster building time. And of course, we're going to cover all of that right here on Fireside Giants in great detail, talking about the waiver wire, any potential trades, free agents. We'll take a look at all of it, so make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode and subscribe to the channel if you're new. And ring the bell so you don't miss the episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening to Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.